Often hear people saying, oh, that startup succeeded because they achieved product market fit, or they failed because they didn't achieve product market fit. It's almost a make or break it factor. Product market fit describes the stage of your startup where you have identified the target customer and your solution satisfies the customer. They say that customers don't really know what they want unless you show it to them. According to researchers, if about 40% of your customers say they cannot do without your solution, then you may have product market fit. Before we continue talking more about how you can achieve it and measure it, please take a moment to like and subscribe to never miss an update. Product market fit is the growth indicator of your business. That means achieving it can make or break your business. Does your product solve a problem that's really big for your customers? And are they willing to pay you for your solution? Well, it's easier said than done. Startups spend months trying to achieve product market fit. There is no one solution to guide you on how to achieve it. So you guessed it right, it can be quite challenging to figure out the process. Hence, Dan Olson, a product managing expert, has listed down the process you need to follow in order to achieve product market fit for your solution. That is, identify your target customers, understand customer needs, know your value proposition, outline and create your minimum viable product, and test the MVP prototype with potential customers. Number 1. Identify your target customers. Target customers are the people who are facing the problem you're solving. They are the ones who decide whether your solution caters to their needs or not, and if so, are they willing to pay you for your solution? So it makes sense to conduct market research and segment your market to define a specific set of customers. You'd want to build different buyer personas, that is, classify your target customers based on age, location, job function, family size, and every other demographic and socio-economic detail applicable to you. Once you do so, it is important that your product team understands it so that they know for whom are they building the product. Number 2. Understand customer needs. Once you have identified your target customers, next, list down their specific needs. What worries them most about the problem you are solving? How much are they willing to pay? How significant is the problem for them? Are there any unserved needs they have? And so on and so forth. Number 3. Know your value proposition. Every product has competition, either direct or indirect. It is your job to identify the alternatives your customers use today and what do you offer as compared to the alternative. How are you better as compared to the existing solutions? Do you have a unique approach to the same problem? Is your product more economical as compared to others? Do you have more features than others? Think about this when building your product roadmap. Number 4. Outline and create your minimum viable product. Of course, you want to test the primary use case of your product before spending time and effort, which is why you need to outline and create an MVP for your product. Think about the most common use cases and all the possible roadblocks in these use cases to come up with the list of features you need to include in the MVP. For example, if you create just a landing page as an MVP, you'd also need to include contact details or at least an email, Twitter handle, or any other coordinates that will help your potential customers reach you. Do not forget to note down each and every detail of your MVP, such as when do you intend to launch it and the use cases you intend to serve. By doing so, you're not only giving yourself a deadline, but are also forced to remove all the things that you won't be able to build in the given timeline. And therefore, you'll only focus on the most important assumption. Once you know the features for your MVP, you need to build it in the most time and cost efficient way. For example, Groupon founders wanted to leverage the power of social media to get people together to accomplish a goal, often called the tipping point principle. Hence, they weren't really bothered about a fancy website or technology. They built a WordPress blog that people could subscribe to using an email, and they would then email them a range of coupons in a PDF format. Of course, they built a more sophisticated version of their product to catch up with demand, but it was not the other way around. That's the power of an MVP. An MVP helps you identify your riskiest assumption and validate it for you. Groupon wanted to focus on group buying and had to test if people would be interested in it for a discount. That's why they built a concierge MVP to validate their assumption. A concierge MVP is simply a human doing all the work. Number 5. Test the MVP prototype with potential customers. Once you have the MVP ready, it's time to put it to test. Do not rely on family and friends for feedback since it can be biased. Don't we all know how mothers mollycoddle us? Hence, it's advisable to get feedback from people you do not know personally and who might be your potential customers. Consider launching beta access to a limited list of people. When talking to these people, remember to listen carefully and let them do the talking. Let them talk about their problems and your product experience. Okay, so most of it is textbook stuff. How do you actually know if you're on the right track? Well, here are a few metrics you can measure that are early growth indicators. Number 1. Activation. That is leads and customers. How many people landed on your site or installed your app? And of those, how many actually signed up for your product? If they did they finish all the steps in the product you wanted them to? Say you had 4 steps on the onboarding process. Did they finish all the 4 steps on the onboarding process or abandon the product before that? How often do they come to your site or app? Number 2. Churn and retention rate. Do people come back to use your product, or how many people can you retain? Ideally, you'd want to minimize churn. The higher the churn, the less likely for your product to achieve product market fit. When studying retention and churn, remember to study any product features that led to churn or confusing user experience. Number 3. Net Promoter Score and referrals. It is always good if your customers talk to you, whether when simply trying to understand your product, requesting a new feature, or reporting an issue. It shows their intent and desire to use your product. From customer conversations, figure out the areas of improvement. Are they specifically happy with your product? Do they have any security concerns? Do they want more features in the product? And so on. Number 4. Customer lifetime value. Customer lifetime value is defined as the net profit you gain from each customer during their total product usage lifetime. Evidently, you want to increase customer lifetime value to retain customers. If you want to build a sustainable business, you need to retain customers who are willing to pay. There are a number of ways in which you can measure the customer lifetime value, but you'd want to gain insights into improvement areas from this metric. Number 5. Bounce rate. By definition, the bounce rate is the percentage of users that visit a page on your website and leave without taking any action. It implies that the longer a visitor stays on your website, the higher the chances of them interacting with you. Everyone wants to minimize bounce rate. However, a higher bounce rate may not be necessarily as bad. It may also mean that there are some page load or technical issues that you should get resolved. Further, also look at the content on your web page to reduce the bounce rate. Of course, there is a ton of metrics to track that will help you measure your product market fit, and you should definitely track all. Product market fit is a never-ending journey. Once you have it, you must maintain it. Let me know in the comment section, how do you measure product market fit, or what did you think about this video?